Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we got our second sneak peek of the Ant-Man and the Wasp update, and it's huge and not at all what any of us were expecting. So brace yourselves because there's a lot of explanation coming, and then a lot of speculation and a lot of hype. On the English forum and on Twitter, we got this post right here, and if you are even a casual fan of Marvel, you will know immediately that that is some iteration of Ultron, but it's a lot more complicated than that. So let's just get into what it actually says first and how that relates back to the comics and how it can possibly relate to the update. But keep in mind, this is still supposed to be Ant-Man and the Wasp, and even though the game is taking a lot of cues from the movie and from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the MCU, this doesn't necessarily mean at all that this character is going to appear in the movie. I actually don't think they're going to be in the movie at all, but I can't say for sure because I haven't seen it. So it says, greetings, whatever, S.H.I.E.L.D. operatives, Ultron Drone, which are just Ultron bodies, like, you know, that look like Ultron but are a little bit different, and Ultron just sends them out. Because Ultron's not really a person, he's an AI, he's an artificial intelligence, like Jarvis, near Wakanda. So we don't usually see Ultron in Wakanda pretty much ever, at least in the comics. In the MCU, we know that he went somewhere at least near Wakanda to deal with Ulysses Claw to take Vibranium, and that was in Age of Ultron, but we haven't seen him since because he died. Or so we think, at least in the MCU. We have also discovered a hidden message. These toys have failed me for the last time, and then the message self-destructs, blah blah blah. But this particular version of Ultron is very similar or almost exactly the same as one that we've seen several times in the comics, that's actually known as like PYM Ultron or PYMtron or other iterations, and basically it's part Ultron, part Hank Pym. And if you watched my video a couple days ago on the Nadia first teaser for Ant-Man and the Wasp, I explained that Hank Pym in the comics is the original creator of Ultron, not Tony Stark in the MCU. So there's a bit of confusion or a little bit of a difference there between the comics and between the movies, and it's kind of, they're kind of contradicting each other. That's okay, but also that Hank Pym was the original Ant-Man, but he was also the original Giant Man and Goliath, and he was one of the Yellow Jackets. He was even a Wasp, and now we see him again as Ultron. So the first question a lot of you guys are going to have is, well, who is Ultron? Is he Hank Pym? Is he Ultron? So I'm going to give you a really quick rundown of who it is, and or what it is and how it kind of intertwines. So there's a comic series a few years ago called Age of Ultron, where he basically makes a planet of himself off of Titan, which is Thanos' old planet, and then at the end of that run of comics, or at the end of that series, Ultron tricks Hank Pym into kind of letting his guard down. Hank Pym, the hero, I think he was Yellow Jacket at that point, but he was a hero, and he merges. At that point, Ultron merges with Hank Pym, and that's kind of part physical, part mental. It's a dual merger of sorts, kind of how the Mind Stone, even though it has its own ideas and its own kind of mind, it merges with Vision and Jarvis and all those different kind of talking brains. So that's what happens at the end of Age of Ultron. To destroy that creation in the comics, they drive it into the sun, and they burn and they destroy it, and they think they've killed Hank and they think they've killed Ultron, but of course they haven't. So then Ultron appears again in Secret Empire, and that's the images that a lot of you guys probably see on the internet, where half of his face is Ultron and half of his face is Hank Pym. He's got the kind of chef's outfit on, he does a whole bunch of stuff, but generally speaking, in that Secret Empire run, Ultron or PYMtron or whatever is a good guy, or he's just neutral. He doesn't do anything bad, although he has a vast army of robots kind of just chilling. And then very recently we've gotten the Infinity Countdown, which they're basically reintroducing the Infinity Gems. They reintroduced Wolverine, which is not really important to this, but they basically revived him, and they're kind of changing a few of the rules with the Infinity Stones. But more importantly, we have seen the reintroduction, and sorry if you haven't read the comic recently, it's only a few months old, the reintroduction of PYMtron, where he kills Magus, who is the kind of alternate reality version of Adam Warlock. So he kills a very powerful person, or at least he seems to kill him. He shoves his hand through his heart there, and he takes the Soul Gem. And when he takes the Soul Gem, Hank Pym, who is, remember, fused with Ultron, gets transferred into the Soul Gem, and he meets an old-time Gamora, which is super cool, by the way. So yeah, that is where we are so far in the comics. for who Hank Pym is, or where he is now, and Ultron, and the kind of Pymtron kind of unification, and how that could play out in the game. I don't know how that's going to play out in the movies. It probably won't be brought up in the movies at all, because in the movies, Tony Stark made Ultron and not Hank Pym at all. But then it raises the question, well, what are we going to get? Is Pymtron going to be a brand new character, because he's technically two different things combined together? Are we going to be getting a new uniform for Ultron as a villain, an additional universal type? Or are we possibly getting a uniform for Goliath? Because Goliath would be the character that makes the most sense here. It doesn't make sense to give Ant-Man the Pymtron uniform, because Scott Lang, or Paul Rudd's character in the movie, has been Ant-Man for like 50 years. So Hank just doesn't, he's not Ant-Man anymore. So it really only leaves, and Yellow Jacket's a villain, so it only leaves Goliath, or Giant Man, or just this character in this game. So we basically have those three options: new uniform for this guy, new uniform for Ultron, brand new character. Personally, my argument is to give the uniform to Giant Man or Goliath, this guy right here, because he is horrible and he needs a rework badly. If he were to maintain himself as a combat type and transfer over to a combat supervillain, that would be perfect for Extreme Alliance battle. Please get rid of Apocalypse. If he were to transfer over to a universal villain, that would be very, very cool too. Alternatively, we could get another uniform for Ultron, but he recently got a rework that makes him a pretty decent character. It doesn't make him meta, but he's very good for Shadowland, very good as a cheap, free-to-play universal villain, and definitely serviceable, much better. He's a solid B tier compared to Giant Man, who's like a C tier or D tier at best. And those were kind of the things that I wanted to discuss with you guys. However, besides the English Moberum and the English Twitter, we had another development which kind of took away the shroud of mystery and kind of dusted away the fog, and it was the Japanese Moberum. And I've spoken about this before, how there's been kind of different information leaking on different, or being presented, not leaked, on different Moberums, and how the community managers are working with, or at least talking about in their posts, different things, and we're learning more than we should potentially about the updates if we combine all the information together. So obviously I can't read Japanese, but if I use my great friend Google Translate, we get this translation. I'm not going to bother to read it because it's not a perfect translation. A lot of times there's a lot of grammar that's lost in translation, but we see the words Giant Man, Giant Man, Giant Man repeated at least 4 times. So there you guys go. The mystery, or so we think, has been revealed, that we are going to be getting a uniform for Giant Man, which is pretty amazing. Now, of course, there is the possibility that this is wrong. It's highly unlikely. I would probably bet it's about a 90% chance that this is correct. So for those of you that don't have Giant Man built up and you like the idea of a mad robot slash human hybrid running around in the game, you should start building up your Giant Mans now. Or not Goliath, literally Giant Man, this guy right here, get him to tier 2. But what else can we expect? Well, to be honest, I am quite happy that we're getting a uniform rather than a brand new character. I don't think we need any new characters in the game at this point. We're kind of at a capacity. We need more places to use those characters. We need an extra 10 or 20 stages of Shadowland. We need more World Boss Ultimate attempts, not fights. We need actual more tries per day so we can use more of our roster. We need a place to put all these 157 different trophies that we have, not a 158th trophy. So I'm very excited for this character. Like I said before previously, he's in a really bad place right now. He's just a very weak character. A lot of his skills are just slow with long animations, and he's one of the original characters to get a 5th skill, which does show his age and how much he's kind of struggled to adapt to changes over time. I thought I had a hair on my face. His uniform did change a couple of things about the character, and they did try to alter his 5th skill around a little bit with the jackhammer attack, but overall he's just really struggles to do much of anything. His tier 2 passive doesn't help him enough. It's got a cooldown. It's just very awkward. So I do expect a top to bottom change for this character should he get this uniform that we are now kind of expecting him to get. Again, I would love for him to become a combat supervillain to maintain his typing, but also to allow him some competition with Killmonger, Carnage, and Apocalypse, mainly because I hate using Apocalypse for Extreme Alliance battle. But there is the possibility he could become a universal type. But Netmarble has shown a lot of hesitation to give us new universal types in the game at all. There's been very few in the last kind of year's worth of updates, so there is a good chance that he will remain a combat type character. What this means for the remainder of the update is probably the most kind of intriguing and mysterious. They are basing most of it presumably off of the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, so we should be getting a new uniform for this guy right here, Scott Lang Ant-Man. We should be getting a new character, Nadia / Hope Pym, who is Evangeline Lilly in the movie, and then getting a uniform for her. So that's at least now 3 uniforms confirmed and 1 new character. Beyond that, I talked about Ghost and a potential movie uniform there, a la Vulture with the Spider-Man Homecoming. So that's 1 character, 4 uniforms. You guys are going to need to save up a lot of crystals. That's, you know, possibly 4,200 crystals right there for all 4 uniforms if they are at the new price point of 1050. Beyond that, I do cross my fingers and hope for game mode improvements and new game modes, but we'll have to wait and see. But now that we have Pimtron, who doesn't fit into the MCU universe but does fit into the comics, it basically opens the door to getting a lot of other potential characters. Now, specifically in the Infinity Countdown saga, there are a lot of new characters that we've never had even remotely discussed of in Marvel Future Fight that find themselves in possession of one of the stones. We have Richard Rider there, not that he has a stone, but he's there, and Xandar is a part of that. We have the Super Skrull having a time stone or gem, and there's a whole bunch of other characters. So while it is technically possible that there is some tie-in there between all of those characters, and there's a possibility they could come because of Pimtron, it's very, very low. I'm talking like less than 1% chance that we actually see Richard Rider, Nova, or Super Skrull. So I just wanted to put that out there for you guys, that I'm aware that exists and that's a possibility, because there's a direct link between the character we know we're getting, Pimtron, this one right here, and the ones from the Infinity Countdown comic series that's currently on right now. It hasn't finished, but I think it's highly unlikely. But with that being said, I have absolutely no idea where the rest of this uniform centered update could go. So I throw it over and leave it to you. What do you think will come next? What will the 3rd sneak peek be? And how powerful will this new Ultron Hank Pym Giant Man uniform hybrid be in the game? Subscribe if you enjoy the content and you want to support me. Hit the bell if you don't want to miss any of my content. And of course, if you like what you see, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Take care.